Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi everyone. Thank you for coming this late into the afternoon for this lightning session with the Educational Studies Department. My name is Akia Wesley and I am an academic advisor in the department, Business Campus. I just moved here from San Diego in the summer and I'm happy to be here.
And my name is Lee Kudo, and I'm also an academic advisor in Ed Studies, and I'm also new to the region, originally from Boston.
So we're going to kind of open up with a little bit of conversation on educational studies and what you all think the degree might be about, or what do we do in educational studies? Any ideas back there?
Learn about how to teach people stuff.
You guys aren't sure, maybe? Okay, well that's fine, no worries. We're going to give you a little bit of insight on what our program is like. And so we hope that you enjoy it, we hope you get something out of it. So here we go. So we're going to be talking about the terms social justice and equity today. We're going to be talking about why those terms are important and why they matter across different community and educational contexts. And then we'll be discussing how an educational studies degree might prepare you for careers that make impactful changes in the community, especially those in diverse communities. So, we wrote something up on the board over here, so if you all would like to participate, please do. The easiest way might be through text message. So if you want, you can text in, or we can just have a general conversation on what your thoughts about social justice and equity are. What are some words that come to mind when you think about social justice and equity? So maybe a couple of seconds to go ahead and text in. If anybody has an idea they just want to blurt out, feel free to.
So definitions, word associations. What do you think? As words scroll across the screen.
So equal, equality of the fair and impartial grades. Where you got people in the wrong towards the right path, fairness and equality. Are you guys Googling this?
You get a sneak peek at our video. All good stuff, by the way. Excellent. Any others?
Okay. Well, we'll take these definitions. You all did a great job, actually. A lot of people were right on point with what social justice means. And so going back to the presentation and the definition of what social justice is, it's a term to describe the distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privileges within a society.
I think someone had that exact.
Yes, someone did. And so it's just an idea that opportunities and resources should be freely and equally available to all individuals. And some specific ideas that surround social justice include topics about human rights, political, economic, and social equalities, the distribution of resources, and as I said earlier, creating access to opportunity and change, but doing it through action. So that kind of describes what social justice is. We have some examples of some social injustices. So some examples are like voting laws. Can anybody think of any voting laws that might be unjust?
news this past election cycle? Anybody hear what happened down in Georgia?
Well, in Georgia, they were voting for a new governor, and there were some
Long lines, polling places that were closed, mostly in black neighborhoods, black communities.
Yeah. So just an injustice, like an example, voter, ID laws. So making people have certain types of IDs to go and vote. So just a lot of things that prevent folks from not voting. Some other examples are law enforcement. We've all heard stories in the news about police officers that might target certain groups of people because of who they are. The environment, clean water and air. Has anybody heard about Flint, Michigan lately? They still don't have clean water. Their pipes are dirty, so they don't have access to clean water. That's a social justice matter because they're not getting the same opportunities to drink clean water just like we are. Healthcare, so making people have healthcare, but when they do pay for healthcare, they can't pay for enough to meet their medical needs. Education is a obvious one. You know, we are past the state and years where schools are segregated, but we all get to go to school together now, and so that was a social justice fight.
And in many ways, schools are still segregated based on communities and income and where you live.
Yeah. So that's still a social injustice that we're continuing to deal with today. And then workplace labor, so workers' rights, health and safety in the workplace. Depending on who you work for, you might be eligible for health care. Pay differences, a lot of those things are social injustices that we deal with. And so it's important to recognize those.
Can anyone think of any others from this list or examples?
Even if it's in your head, it's okay.
What?
Of social injustices.
Are any examples that we've left out? Everywhere?
It's everywhere. It is everywhere. Yes?
I'd say like for education, like certain colleges, especially like out-of-state colleges, sometimes tend to accept more kids from out-of-state than in-state because the tuition is greater and they make more money off it. I don't know if that's like a recognized one, but it's a social injustice.
It could be.
Yeah, so I come from, so Massachusetts has tons and tons of schools, but what ends up happening is UMass Amherst, which is like the UW of, obviously Massachusetts, but the flagship campus, their tuition is significantly higher, which actually prices Massachusetts students out. So it's actually a school in a state school where so many students in the state can't get into. So that is right there an injustice.
All right. Questions on social justice? All right. We are going to move into equity. So I don't know if anybody got to address the equity question in our poll, but when you think of equity, you might think of equality.
As synonyms.
So they're similar. So up here we have equality, meaning the state of being the same. And then equity is a state of being treated fairly. And fairness having to do with freedom from bias, dishonesty, or injustice. And so to help better describe those terms, I'm going to give you all an example. So we have 3 plants up here, a cactus, an orchid, and a lemon tree. They're all different types of plants, but we want to ask some questions. What does each plant need to grow and thrive? How are these needs different? And what happens if we treat each plant the same? So maybe if you all could maybe pair up and discuss those questions. We'll give you about a minute to discuss it.
Water, sunlight,
right, so we're gonna bring it back in. Does anybody want to share out their answers to these questions?
What does a cactus need that an orchid and a lemon tree doesn't need?
Come on.
Are we in a
Let's
room
get-
full of plant killers? Come on.
Sun?
Sun.
All of them need sun, that's correct.
But the cactus definitely needs more sun, I would think, than an orchid. What else?
What are the different needs of each of these plants?
The orchid and the lemon tree need more water than the cactus.
So what happens if we treat all the plants the same? One of them eventually will die, right? One of them won't make it through the season if we treat each plant the same. So, imagine that these plants are people. You have a group of people, and all these people come from different backgrounds, and they all have different needs. They're all at different starting places. No matter what environment you're in, if you're in a helping profession, you are going to be interacting with all different types of people who have different needs. So it's going to be important to recognize each of those needs so that all the people we work with are successful. And that's equity. And so to follow up that definition of equity and those examples, we have one more case study to show you. And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about the case study once I'm done reading it. So a 6th grade teacher takes her class to a nature reserve for a science-based hike, believing the reserve has accommodations for her new student who uses crutches due to cerebral palsy. When the class arrives, they learn that the reserve's accommodations are underwhelming and they don't fit the student's needs. What are the issues here of equity and social justice? So take about a minute to discuss it with someone next to you, and then we'll bring it back in.
What could the teacher have done better? What could the reserve do better in order to make this a well-being day?
Alright, so we're going to bring it back in. What are some of the ideas you all came up with?
I said the teacher could have called ahead, and, checked if they had accommodations for her. And also the reserve could have, when you schedule something like this, they could have added something that asks instead of extra accommodation.
Great answer. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
I feel like you could have done a little bit of common sense, because a nature reserve, I would assume nobody would go and mess with anything there, so I would assume that nobody would make walkways, to let people through. I don't know.
So maybe a nature reserve was the best idea for this class.
One more? One more thought? Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably reserve better accommodations. Something could have been done better, and also what happens is it doesn't let the person with a disability have the same experience as somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you all for sharing.
Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, equality was allowing all students to go on the field trip to the reserve. But equity was keeping in mind the needs of each student and keeping in mind how all the students learn, whether it's according to their mental abilities or their physical abilities, they were all different. So it was both on the teacher and the reserve to recognize that. And so with equity, these are the types of things that you all will think about when you're working with others, and just keeping this stuff in mind. It was also a privilege for the teacher and the reserve to not have to think about those things and miss it, because they're just not used to it. They don't, in your normal day life, we just go through thinking about ourselves, but we don't think about other folks when they are running into issues that we wouldn't normally run into. And so with that said, I wanted to discuss a couple more terms before we get into talking about our degree. These terms are important when you're talking about social justice and equity, so I'll just kind of run through them and talk about the significance. So privilege is the first one. I just talked about that with the reserve and the teacher not recognizing that. And so it's a set of benefits given to people who fit into a specific social group according to their identities. So can you all name some examples of identities that go along with privilege?
Something like gender,
Gender,
religion. These are great. Come on, keep going. Able-bodied.
able-bodied peoples,
Yep.
race,
Economic status. Yeah. Class.
class, sexuality, age, geographic location. So those are all different identities that affect how people are seen. And with a lot of these identities, you identify with more than one of those things, which takes us into intersectionality, which is the idea that multiple identities intersect to create a whole identity that is different from its individual components. So I'll use myself as an example. First, I'm a woman. I'm African American. I'm heterosexual. All of these different identities influence the way that I go through the world, and it's the same for other folks. You might see them for one thing, but it's important to keep in mind that people identify with more than one identity, and it's important to keep those in mind when you're working with others. And the last definition that I'll go over is oppression. We've all heard that word, and it's the unjust or cruel exercise of authority or power. And this is important because oppression is the reason behind social justice and equity. It's the reason that we have these ideas and make sure that we address things of oppression. And so social justice and equity are great ways to be aware of who you are as a person, and also incorporating it into your daily lives when you see things that are just unfair happening in the world. And so the purpose of this was not to make anyone in the room feel guilty. It was actually for you all to build a type of self-awareness about who you are and the other people around you and even the world that you live in. And this was an opportunity for you to learn how you might be able to start addressing modes of social injustices. And you do this through challenging, influencing, and changing the systems. And then just being well-versed on topics like this will help you become a better community member as well as a leader in the future. Because we want our leaders to be thoughtful of these types of things. Because we live in a diverse country and everybody has different needs. So being aware of yourself and the other things that are going on will be great ways to build character. And so, now you might be asking, what does social justice and equity have to do with me, my degree, and my career? Well, as someone said earlier, you said social injustice happens everywhere. It's all around us. And so we need to make sure that we're aware of it. A lot of these issues might be unconscious. So if we don't know these terms or these words to describe it, we might not be able to address it. And again, it's important for everyone to know these things because you will be someone's future leader, supervisor, and you're a community member, so it's all to make better communities.
So, moving on to the actual degree. So, the Ed Studies degree, the School of Educational Studies, we focus on these issues, and we offer programming, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, and minors that address concerns of social justice, equity, privilege, all the things that we've been talking about. And you can read here just some of the ways that a degree in educational studies will prepare you to really make change and be aware of issues no matter where you work. You don't need to be a teacher in order to be aware of and make change in these areas. Here's our mission. It is long, but we've highlighted some of the points that we focus on as a school, and that if you were to major or minor or take some Ed Studies courses, that you'd be addressing. So words you've already seen, right? We promote equity and social justice. We explore educational issues. We value intellectual diversity. And we promote equitable access to educational professions. And we collaborate with local and global communities. In so many ways, education is the foundation of almost everything. So we're a discipline that really permeates everything. So what do we actually offer? So we have 3 bachelor's degree options. So the first is a bachelor's degree in educational studies. So this is an interdisciplinary program that students can concentrate in 2 different areas. So you can read them here. So the first is education leadership, policy, and social justice. So this is an avenue that's for students who might want to go into ed policy, maybe go into law school, do some work as a legislator, or work for a nonprofit that wrestles with these kinds of issues. And then the second concentration for the BA is curriculum, instruction, and equity. Maybe students want to work as a museum docent or work for, I think of places like the Pacific Science Center in Seattle doing curriculum for educational institutions that aren't schools. So that would be a great option for you. Or even if you're interested in teaching abroad, this would be a great option. And then of course we have the BA in Ed Studies with the elementary education option. And that's for those who want to teach, in elementary school. So we of course prepare teachers. We also have a post-bac program. So post-bac is what it sounds like. It's post-baccalaureate. It's a 5th-year program. You come back after whatever major you're in, and you could get a teacher certification. And of course, we have 3 minors. So for those of you that aren't interested in becoming an elementary school teacher or really set on the major that you have in your mind, you could always minor in these issues. And it really rounds out your education, even if you're in business or say that you're in STEM. Having an education minor gives you that other element of interdisciplinarity, which is a big word, but basically means like it allows you to include more into your studies that would really allow you to maybe go into human resources, allow you to wrestle with issues of diversity, especially those that are going to be working in diverse offices. This gives you the vocabulary and the ability to really tackle these issues. And here is just a few of the career opportunities. Real life people have these careers as products of our program, and also just options that you have with an Ed Studies degree. It's not just limited to teaching. I know often folks think, oh, I would do that major if I wanted to be a teacher, but it's really way more than that. Pia and I are 2 examples of people who have education degrees but are not teaching. We are academic advisors, so that is a perfectly great option for those of you who don't want to teach but want to stay in school for the rest of your lives and want to work in higher ed. So I know that when I was in college, I didn't realize or didn't even think that like I could work at a university. It just wasn't an option that I had in my mind until I met someone who actually worked at a university and was like, oh, I could work at a university being a staff member and not a professor, because universities need plenty of educators that don't go for their PhDs but work in education or don't teach and work in education. And there are tons of fields that need people with educational backgrounds or backgrounds that are well-versed in issues of diversity and social justice. And our degree is perfect for that. Also, many of our students double major. and I have that down below here. Some great combos can be community psychology and educational studies if you are interested in becoming a school counselor, or business and education if you're interested in going into human resources.
Or health studies and education if you're more interested in going into healthcare. And then it also makes for great undergraduate programs if you plan on pursuing more education, like a master's degree, or even a PhD. If you see yourself going that far, it's a great foundation.
So, any questions on our programs? Or the careers, the tracks that you could follow within the studies major? Questions from anyone interested in a flyer? We'll leave them out here, out front. You can grab them on your way out. Cool. All right, thank you. Oh, our emails are over there as well. If you have any questions that you want to ask us. I saw a hand.
I was just gonna ask,
Yeah.
obviously like educational studies, that's pretty broad, but, are there any, like, current research projects being done, in the office in that school?
For faculty, we have faculty that are conducting research on, let's see, we've got, I know, like, education in STEM right now, curriculum. We have a lot of faculty that are working on curriculum in their disciplines. And then we also, there's one project that floated by that was like women's body image in education. So if you have an issue or something that you're interested in, it could be done research-wise with one of our faculty. So we have faculty that specialize in adolescent development. So if there's anything with like teenagers or adolescents that you're interested in, that's research. Anything related to the curriculum, STEM, social studies, literacy, leadership, like educational leadership. Those are the faculty that do research.
Social justice, equity.
And access to technology, social media. First generation college students, first generation students, working class students, access to education. Tons and tons of issues that are faculty. We're also hiring a bunch of new faculty too that we bring a bunch of new research to our school.
Yeah. And then again, the BA in Educational Studies is very flexible. So if you have something that you're interested in and you want to do it, the staff and faculty would be very happy to help you meet the goals that you want to meet in the degree.
And you're actually going to be hearing from one of our colleagues that we partner closely with in community-based learning and research. If you're doing the BA, you're going to be doing 100 hours of community-based learning and research, and that's where you can get the professional experience or the direct experience in what you're interested in through our friends in CBR. Yeah. Okay. So turning it over. If you have any questions, our information is right there. And it's going to take